Have you ever ridden through the woods at night, when the world is still and the only sound is your own heartbeat? In a small valley north of New York City, generations have whispered about a rider who comes when the moon is high. They say he thunders down the road without a head on his shoulders, carrying a jack-o'-lantern as if it were his face. This is not just a campfire tale. This is the legend of Sleepy Hollow. Back in the late 1700s, Sleepy Hollow was nothing more than a quiet settlement along the Hudson River. The village was surrounded by thick woods and crowned by the old Dutch church with its leaning headstones. To outsiders, it seemed peaceful, but locals swore the valley was enchanted. They spoke of strange lights, phantom voices, and above all, a headless figure who haunted the roads at night. The story begins in the Revolutionary War. Among the British forces were German soldiers called Hessians. Fierce, disciplined, and merciless, they were feared by the colonists. But one unlucky Hessian met his end in Sleepy Hollow. A cannonball tore through the battlefield, separating his head from his body. His comrades buried him hastily in the churchyard, but his skull was never found. And without rest, his spirit rose again, mounted on a black steed, hunting eternally for his lost head. Years later, a new face arrived in Sleepy Hollow. Ichabod Crane, a lanky schoolteacher with a long nose, narrow shoulders, and an endless appetite. He was a man of learning, but also of superstition. By day, he taught the children their letters and numbers. By night, he filled his imagination with ghost stories, convinced that every shadow held a spirit. And he had one more obsession: Katrina Van Tassel, the blooming daughter of a wealthy farmer. But Ichabod was not the only one who admired Katrina. Brom Bones, broad-shouldered and bold, was the hero of Sleepy Hollow. He was everything Ichabod was not: strong, confident, and fearless. The rivalry between the timid schoolmaster and the boisterous Brom became the talk of the valley. Brom teased Ichabod mercilessly, knowing how frightened he was of the supernatural. One crisp autumn night, Ichabod was invited to a grand party at the Van Tassel farm. The air smelled of roasted meats, fresh pies, and sweet apple cider. Laughter filled the rooms as fiddles played and dancers whirled. But as the night wore on, the merriment gave way to whispers of the supernatural. Guests leaned close and told tales of spirits, of haunted glens, and of the dreaded Headless Horseman. Each tale grew darker, each voice lower, until even the candles seemed to flicker in fear. When the clock struck midnight, Ichabod mounted his horse, a bony old creature named Gunpowder. The night was colder now, the wind whispering through the trees. Every sound seemed louder. The chirp of crickets, the creak of branches. Ichabod's imagination ran wild with the ghostly tales he had just heard. Yet he pressed on, determined to reach his home across the dark woods. And then, it came, the steady, pounding rhythm of hooves behind him. At first, Ichabod thought it was his own echo. But when he turned his head, his heart froze. There, looming in the shadows, was a rider dressed in black. His cloak billowed, his horse's eyes glowed, and where his head should have been, there was nothing. In one hand, the phantom clutched a pumpkin, glowing faintly like a lantern from another world. Ichabod spurred Gunpowder forward, branches whipping his face as the horseman thundered closer. The chase roared through the woods, over hills, and across fields. Desperate, Ichabod remembered the old tales. The ghost could not cross the bridge near the churchyard. If only he could reach it, he would be safe. The bridge stood ahead, pale in the moonlight, like a final hope. Ichabod galloped across the bridge and turned, expecting the horseman to vanish. But the phantom did not stop. Instead, it rose in the saddle, lifted its arm, and hurled its head. A blazing pumpkin. Straight at Ichabod, There was a crash, a cry, and then silence. By morning, the villagers found only gunpowder wandering riderless, Ichabod's hat, and the shattered remains of a pumpkin. Ichabod Crane was never seen again. Some whispered that Brombones had dressed as the Phantom to scare Ichabod away from Katrina forever. Others swore it was truly the Horseman, riding from the grave, forever bound to the valley. The truth was lost to time, but the story lived on, retold by every generation. To this day, the town of Sleepy Hollow embraces the legend. Each autumn, jack-o'-lanterns glow, parades march, and visitors walk the old churchyard, hoping to catch a glimpse of the rider in the mist. The legend of Sleepy Hollow is more than a ghost story. It is a reminder of fear, superstition, and the thin line between imagination and reality. So the next time you ride alone on a moonlit road, and you hear the echo of hooves behind you, ask yourself, would you dare to look back?